Woo, all right. So guys, if it's cool to stay on mute, I think you guys all are on already. But again, feel free to throw questions in the chat, or if I don't see it or you just want to yell at me, you can take yourself off mute to do that. Okay, so we're talking sleep tips for the parents tonight, for the adults. I'm pretty sure we're all parents here. And while I am a child sleep consultant, there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of crossover here. I'm going to frame it up as what that looks like for adults, for us parents. But we're really going to dive into like, what can you do to get your best sleep? Because a lot of us, or a lot of you, are in the same boat. I was definitely in that boat, and sometimes I still am. But there's a lot of great things that we can do to get the sleep that we need and to get out of the rut of constantly either having trouble falling asleep, staying asleep. And sometimes the staying asleep isn't always our fault, right? Maybe the kids are coming in, or we get up for some reason and then it's just hard to get back to sleep. So we're going to talk about all of that. And at the end, we got a little something else to wrap this all up. So a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know, I'm a mom of 3, so sleep has been hard to come by over the years for lots of reasons, but luckily I am now a child sleep consultant, so we got that underway at least. But also my background is in health promotion. I have a bachelor and a master's degree in health promotion, but I really became specialized in, worked in mental health for a long time, and actually some of that's woven in here, but I specialize as a childbirth educator and a sleep consultant and a new parent educator and a car seat tech. So I am kind of more around the pregnancy, postpartum and baby years. But again, this stuff translates. And some of you might know this already, but while I am a sleep consultant, you know how they say those who can't do teach? So I was never really a great sleeper. That's what I would say to myself. My dad would say, like, oh, you come from a long line of poor sleepers. I don't know how many of you hear that from your families too, but like, okay, that might actually be true
to go to sleep. Like,
well, he's like,
sorry.
Okay, well, I'm ready to take him. I'm ready for him to go to bed.
Sorry, I can hear that. I'm just going to mute. So yeah, anyway, I wasn't able to sleep very well, thinking like, oh, well, people in my family can't sleep well, but there's a reason for that. There's always a reason. So let's try to find that reason and let's get some better sleep. And my sleep has changed a whole lot in the last little while. And like I said, it's still not quite always there because I don't always do all of the things I know I should. But anyway, we're going to work on that. If you don't already follow me on Instagram or know about the website, it's over there. And the Bringing Up Baby podcast, you can just take the little screenshot or pull out your camera and grab it up. And we had a great episode that came out this week too that you might want to, we'll kind of reference while we're talking today. Okay. So some highlights, basically what we're talking about tonight: how much sleep do we need and why? We might already know this, but that's why we're not going to spend much time there. We're going to get to what are the sleep challenges, why are we having those sleep challenges, and ways to promote better sleep. How much sleep do we need? Well, I get most of my sleep information from the Sleep Foundation. It is very up to date and very well researched. And it's sleepfoundation.org if ever anybody wants to go over there and do their own little bit of research. But we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, guys. We're not getting that. We're not. And it's solid sleep, like a really sound sleep. Now, of course, there's going to be times when we might wake briefly in the night, but we should be able to go back to sleep. And sometimes we don't even remember it, because just like kids, we have sleep cycles. We're going to have periods of lighter sleep. We're going to have periods of deeper sleep, and we're going to have like 3 or 4 of those, depending how long we're sleeping, every night. So if we're getting out of a sleep cycle and then we're not able to go back to sleep, or we're stay awake for too long, that's disrupted sleep. And it's fine. It's at least you're sleeping, but it could be better, right? So this is what we're getting at. And here's also why we need it. Your mental well-being. It actually prevents burnout. If any of you do follow the podcast, you know that we've been talking about burnout and balance and things like that for parents. And it's the #1 thing to get yourself out of burnout. That's primarily where I was started working on that, because you can't expect to help yourself be well if you're not sleeping well. It really comes down to sleep is number one. It's ground level for so many things. Your daily wellness, to have better energy, a better improved mood each and every day when you get a good sleep. Don't we all want that? And your physical health too. It helps with hormone regulation, prevents illness, disease, that kind of thing. So obviously a lot of great reasons to improve your sleep. So which is why I'm glad you're all here today. So when it comes to the sleep challenges, this is basically what we're looking at. Most of these we have, well, yeah, most of these we have some control over. So falling asleep, for a lot of us, this was, I think, number 2 on the list when I was asking last week, you know, what are your challenges when it comes to sleep on Instagram? This was number 2, falling asleep. So at the onset of sleep, having trouble going to sleep. So we're going to tackle ways to specifically work on that. But honestly, a lot of the ways that work on falling asleep also translate to staying asleep. So this was number 1. Most of us have trouble staying asleep. And this is a big part of where my sleep problems came in for sure. So sleep maintenance, not being able, either waking up, sometimes we wake up at the same time every night around like 2 or 3 a.m. perhaps. And sometimes we're getting out of that sleep cycle. We're just not able to go back to sleep, and we might be up for the rest of the day, or we just are up for a long enough time that's really disrupting our sleep. So this was number 1 for a lot of us. Staying up too late, or sorry, let's go back, can't get back to sleep for reasons that are out of your control. Like I was saying earlier, maybe the kids coming into the room, or you have an infant that's still getting up for feedings, and it's the trouble going back to sleep. And that can be really challenging when it's not even like you're doing of getting up, but there's still some things that we can do to get back into sleep mode quicker. So we're going to talk about that. And now we have staying up too late on purpose. Some of you mentioned this. I've been guilty of this. This is something I still do from time to time. I think we're all going to do this from time to time at least. But have you ever heard the term revenge bedtime procrastination? So this is actually a thing. You can Google it. It's kind of, I think it was a couple of years ago that I started hearing about this term. But basically it comes down to parents mostly staying up late on purpose because we don't get enough time during the day for ourselves or to do the things that we want to do to unwind and relax. So this is a tough one because we can't always get out of, you know, all of the things that we have to do in a day and the little ones that we have to take care of and all that stuff. But we are going to talk about and how to incorporate some of this time throughout your day so you don't have to spend it all at the end of the day, and you can focus on your sleep, and you would want to focus on your sleep. Okay, so sorry, I have to take a drink of water. Insomnia and sleep apnea. These are, sorry, I'm trying to move this. Okay. Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh. Going the wrong way. This is going to be a terrible recording. Sorry, guys. So these are quite common. This is basically, I mean, in a nutshell, what it comes down to. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending to be, but these are, and we're not going to get into those medical things. Like I'm not diagnosing or doing anything like that here. We're going to talk about things that you can do. But when it comes to insomnia doesn't necessarily mean like chronic. That is, chronic insomnia is absolutely a problem, can lead to even bigger problems, but insomnia can be circumstantial. It can be just for a period of time. But it's still going to impact your well-being. So stress causes this, irregular sleep schedules, maybe because of travel or work or what have you, poor sleeping habits, mental health disorders, physical illness and pain, medications, neurological problems, sleep disorders. So there are tons of reasons why we may not be sleeping well. So number 1, if you're, you know, wondering if there's something else going on, like checking with your doctor, a naturopath, going that route in addition to these other things would be pretty helpful probably. If anything, just to knock some things off the list, you know. Sleep apnea, I'm bringing this up because now there may be some gentlemen in our midst this evening, and some of you may have gentlemen partners. And I'm not blaming all the men, but it's men are 3 times more likely to experience sleep apnea. It does happen in women, but just far less than. And it's more common than we think. So if anybody's doing any really loud snoring, stopping breathing during sleep, and so you'd kind of have to have somebody else report on that one, or if not, record yourself, I guess. If you're gasping for air during sleep, or waking up with a dry mouth, maybe a morning headache on the regular, difficulty staying asleep, excessive daytime sleepiness, and irritability. So, I mean, those, again, some of those don't obviously mean only sleep apnea, but just to say that loud snoring is probably one of the most common ways we might pick up on that, as well as stopping breathing for periods of time, gasping for air during sleep. But not all people with sleep apnea snore. So just to keep those other ones in mind too. Anyway, worth looking into. These would be reasons to check with the doctor, of course. Now, excuse me, these are my top sleep tips for kids, but with a bit of a twist for you, for us. So learn and understand your body. Now, for the babies, comes down to, adults learning their sleep cues, but basically you got to understand your body as well. Hormone shifts, any medical reasons, mental health issues, like there could be other reasons for this, which is what we were just talking about. So if you feel strongly, or you're curious or wondering or worried that maybe there's something else underlying and not just these simple little things that we can be doing that's impacting your sleep, is trying to learn more about your body, what's going on, and how you might be able to help that. Have an appropriate sleep schedule. So, for kids, definitely age appropriate, because a 6-month-old is not going to sleep the same as a 2-year-old, and it's not going to sleep the same as us. So an appropriate schedule for us, would be a 7 to 9 hour a night sleep, typically in the realm of, I'm going to say average 10 p.m. at night to, 6 a.m., 7 in the morning. So for the average person that gets up and has like the regular circadian rhythm and all that sort of stuff, because, there's shift workers and, that wouldn't necessarily have that same sleep schedule. But having an appropriate sleep schedule and having it consistent as well, going to bed around the same times, waking up around the same time each day, is going to be extremely helpful. Sleeping in on the weekends, I know you guys probably heard that one before, and it's a hard one to come around to. Now, most of us, again, are parents, and probably parents of young ones, so sleeping in is still a luxury that we might not be getting yet. But just to say that if you're in a house like ours, where we would take turns on the weekend sleeping, when you have little ones, sometimes that's very much necessary. Go ahead and do that. But if you are able to try to get a solid night's sleep, trying to avoid the sleeping in would be helpful. Keeping the bedroom dark and cool. This is definitely a sleep tip for everybody. Darker is better. Darkness helps to produce melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So the darker you can make it in the room, if there's little lights from like a fan or in the clock and this and that in the room, like it's time to turn those off or turn them around. We want darkness. And cool too, 18 to 20 degrees, like at the warmest, if you can handle that. Even if it's a little bit cooler, or if you still crack the window open, even on these really cold nights, that cool air, if you're under some warm blankets anyway, can actually be really conducive to sleep. Our core body temperature is all lower while we're sleeping, and so cooler air is helpful, but those blankets can keep you warm. Implement a bedtime routine. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but this is important for adults. And I would say most of us are not doing this, and this is a really big reason why we're not getting the sleep that we need. And lastly, be dull company at night. So for the babies, I'm telling the parents to say, hey, when you're tending to your babies in the night, when they need you, go ahead and do that, but don't get excited. It's not time to turn on the lights and play and watch a show and do all those things. And same goes for you. Phones, screens got to stay off all night. If you're doing anything to help yourself get back to sleep, which we're going to talk about, things like reading and stuff, that's kind of, I consider that dull. I mean, it's not, I enjoy reading, but just, it's nothing really exciting. It's nothing that's going to prevent you necessarily from falling asleep. So those are the big ones. By the way, I probably should have mentioned that you guys are going to get a handout, at least a couple of those after this. I'll probably send it all tomorrow with the copy of the video. And it's going to have a lot of this stuff, basically all of this here. This is it right here. I don't know why I'm talking about it. So this is the handout you guys are going to get. And it basically, it encompasses really all of the biggest tips that I have for you. So if you'll entertain me for a moment and just look at this nighttime routine part. So I'm asking you to turn your screens off at least 30 minutes before bed. Ideally, it would be longer than that. I don't want to ask for too much. I mean, I say I'm asking, but if you're really looking at making a change to your sleep habits, this is going to help. Taking off those screens. So the blue light that's emitted from screens isn't great. There are these blue light reflective glasses. I actually have a pair. I don't really know if they work or not. I don't, if anybody feels like it works for them and has them, that let me know. I like to think that they do, but still, I'm still trying to avoid the screens because it can get addictive. It can get your mind going in ways that we don't want it to go when it's time to get ready for sleep. Basically, what a routine does before sleep, just like for your kids, it's telling your body that sleep's coming soon. It's telling your body it's okay to relax. We don't have to be on alert. We don't have to have any stress because it's time to fall asleep. So a routine that you do pretty much the same night after night, and one of those things, getting off screens, helps you to get there, is it's closing the stress cycle. We got to close the stress cycle so that our bodies can relax so that we can fall asleep. So screens off at least 30 minutes before bed. Put your phone away. Don't bring it into the bedroom, or at least have it on silent mode. I use mine as my alarm. So, but I have an iPhone and it has like the sleep in the health app or something. So it shuts my phone off. I won't get any notifications unless it's from like certain people, or if it's an emergency or something. You can set it for that. But it will even have like a warning 30 minutes before it's time to go to bed. And so that's all on silent except for the alarm that goes off. So that's the only time phone should be in your room for nighttime. Cool the bedroom. So we talked about that already. If it's typically warmer during the day, then we want to cool it at night. Unwind with dim lighting, and unwind however you want to. If it's reading, if it's just laying still, if it's chatting with your partner, if it's maybe doing some yoga or stretching, just doing something calm with relatively dim lighting. So we're trying to make it darker. Don't watch the clock. So when you do fall asleep, or when you are trying to fall asleep, or you wake up from being asleep, don't look at the clock. Get the clock out of your room. I almost prefer the phone system if you can keep it silent, because it's a bit easier for it to just not have to look at it, and it can be dark. That's such a big reason why we're not getting back to sleep, is we look at the clock and think, oh gosh. Or sometimes it might be like, oh, okay, it's only 1 o'clock. So I still got a decent amount of time. I'll be able to get back to sleep. But then if you keep looking at it and like, oh, now it's 1:30, now it's 2, now it's like, even if you don't think you are, you're working yourself up, and that is not going to help you get back to sleep. So clocks, get out. They're out. Get out of bed if necessary. If you are staying awake, laying in bed for too long, and I'll let you decide what feels too long, when you're kind of starting to get restless or wondering, hey, why am I not sleeping yet? Get out of bed. Bed should be for sleep and sex. So, or trying to get to sleep, like reading and stuff when it's around sleep. So if you're just laying there, not sleeping for a long period of time, it's better for you to get up. And actually, if you're going to read, even maybe go read somewhere else, or get up, go to the washroom, maybe even do your routine over again. How many of you have done that for your kids? You did the routine, you put them down, maybe they fall asleep and wake up again, or maybe they just have trouble falling asleep. And after some time of you trying to get them back to sleep, you just, we'll just do the routine over again, and it works. So you can do that too. And anyway, it can work because it's closing that stress cycle, and maybe you just need to remind your body that that's what's happening. A consistent morning wake up time. And if you can, this is really great for resetting your body clock and just like separating daytime and nighttime. get outside right away for some sunlight. Now, for a lot of us where we're living and when we're waking up right now, it's still dark. So getting outside right away isn't necessarily going to cut it, but at least some artificial light will be a little bit helpful there, because any kind of light is going to suppress that melatonin. But whenever the sun does come up, or even just getting out for the fresh air, that really makes a difference to just start your day off on the right foot. Okay, I hope I'm not talking too fast. Again, you guys are going to get this handout and you're going to get the recording. So we'll be able to review it. I don't want to keep you guys too long. So here's some extra sleep tools. Reading can be super helpful. Journaling might not be everybody's jam, but trying to just brain dump your stuff before bed. Maybe try to do that at least an hour or so before bed, but do it whenever you can, because you're just going to stew on it while you're lying down trying to sleep if you don't do that. Might even just be a list of to-dos. So having a paper and pen or pencil by your bed, something comes to mind, write it down. I'm going to think about that later. I'm not going to forget it because I just wrote it down. I can think about that later. Right now it's time for sleep. Easier said than done. I totally know this, but things to work on. A sleep mask. I love a sleep mask. Not only does it like just provide a bit of pressure around your eyes, around your face, some of them do, but it's going to make it dark. And that can be just incredibly helpful for a lot of people. So don't discount the sleep mask. You can actually get them at Lawton's, you can get them at Chapters, I think you can get them all kinds of places. White noise for adults. It is a thing. Use a fan because that's going to help keep you cool. It's also going to act as white noise. Maybe static from the radio, or just you can get something going on your phone. There's lots of apps for that as well, but that can be extremely helpful. It's not for everybody, but could be helpful. Progressive muscle relaxation. I want you guys to Google this if you don't already know what this is. This is extremely helpful, really helpful for the kids too. This is one of the things I talk and teach parents about when we're working with older children struggling with falling asleep. So what it is basically going head to toe or toe to head and squeezing different body parts, different muscle groups, and releasing that. So squeezing it for maybe 3 or 5 seconds and then letting go. And you might do that 2 or 3 times for each muscle group. So you could do it like with your forehead, like raising your eyebrows. You would do it with your shoulders, raising your shoulders up to your ears and then relaxing down and then doing it again, all the while kind of breathing relatively slowly, rhythmically, working your way down. You can squeeze your arms, squeeze your hands, squeeze your butt, squeeze your legs, squeeze your toes. And doing that, just going head to toe, that can be so relaxing and really relax your body. So you could Google that. There's probably lots of YouTube videos, even of people talking through it, and probably some apps as well. Actually, I want to find an app that's specifically for that. That would be great. Deep breathing. So kind of going with the progressive muscle relaxation, but deep breathing or any meditation sleep apps that can help you do that. It's really just focusing on your breath. Sometimes I almost didn't put the word meditation in here because I know that some people can step back on that, but to me, it's just sitting and just being. And then when the thoughts come, let them go. Either write them down or just, I'll think about you later, and just keep coming back to that. It doesn't have to be hard. It could just be breathing, focusing on your breath. That's it. Much like maybe a lot of you did in labor and delivery. So that in and of itself is just relaxing for the body. It's closing the stress cycle. It's actually doing something different with your hormones. It's great. Lastly, the meditation sleep apps. I mean, I think there's quite a few, but the top ones that I keep hearing about and I particularly like are the Calm app and Headspace. Yeah. There's even some documentaries, I think, or shows on Netflix around those too. Can be a little bit extra helpful and educational. Lavender, essential oils, anything scented like lavender is typically, if you can stand that smell, it's typically very calming. So you can get little oils with it where you can just maybe rub it on so you can smell it. There's sprays to put on your pillow. Maybe it's just something you put in your bathtub, some lavender bath salts, any kind of scent around that can be really helpful. Last little reminders, minimize your to-do list. This is a hard one. I think I'm going to have like a workshop where we kind of like dive deeper into some of these. Do you think? Because this one's not easy, and it's not easy for me to do, carving out some me time, but these are really important. These are really important for those of us that have that revenge bedtime procrastination nonsense. If we don't carve out me time during the day, we're going to crave it too much by the time the kids go to bed. And we're going to, I mean, how hard is it to just shut it off? You just crave, you want more of it, right? So even if it's just 5 minutes at a time, 2 minutes at a time, even if it's just to go to another space, to drink your coffee or tea hot for a few minutes, or to do some deep breathing, do some of the other things. These don't have to be just for sleep. They can just help relax you, but trying to carve that out on purpose. Be really purposeful and mindful about it, because if you're not, the day goes by and you spent it all on everybody else. So minimizing the to-do list, again, I know that's hard, but try to take things off, because we're doing too much, and that's a big reason why we're not sleeping. Getting some movement or exercise, so you don't actually have to be super active. We don't have to like be training for marathons just to get a good night's sleep. I mean, if you are, that's great, and I hope you are sleeping well, but just getting outside, just moving our bodies in certain ways, whether that's stretching, whether that's yoga, whether it's just doing mindful movement, whatever you enjoy, that is always going to help. Limit caffeine and alcohol. Yeah, we know this, right? But caffeine, it's in chocolate, it's in pop, it's in obviously coffee, tea. So trying to keep that to before lunchtime. Okay, a cup or two at the most, if that's okay. If that's too much of a drop for you, you might want to do that gradually. But honestly, the caffeine, it's becoming an issue. Alcohol, we tend to, especially as parents, use that to kind of unwind a lot of the times at the end of the day. And while I'm not totally opposed to that, again, I do that too at times, but it's understanding that usually when that happens, I'm probably not going to sleep well. It's one of the biggest reasons why we're waking up. We're falling asleep okay, but we're waking up in the middle of the night. Alcohol is a stimulant. We think it's relaxing, but it's actually not. It's doing the complete opposite in our bodies. So if you're struggling with sleep, particularly the getting up, waking up in the night and struggling going back to sleep, this would be something I would think a little bit more about. Not to say that you can't have any at all, but maybe decreasing it, limiting it, see if you notice a difference on the nights that you might have it versus not. Avoiding big meals before bed and treats like chocolate stuff because of the sugar and caffeine. Now, I can avoid a big meal, but avoiding the treats for me is sometimes very difficult as well. So again, these are areas where we're not all going to be perfect, but sometimes it's just understanding, okay, well, maybe I won't have such a great sleep tonight. I got to be mindful of that, but hey, I'm having some treats, just to say that that's a reason. Already mentioned beds are for sleep and for sex. Try to limit it to that. Anything that happens around sleep, around sex, that is it. Try repeating the routine. I mentioned that as well. So that can work great for kids. It worked great for you as well. If you're up for, I don't want to put a time frame on it, but if you're awake and you feel like it's been a long time, actually I can't put a time frame on it because there's no clocks in your rooms, right? It's getting frustrating now. You're not going back to sleep. Get up, get out of the room, redo the routine, maybe go read or something first and then redo the routine and then put yourself back to sleep. Aim for those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Darker is better. The darker you can make it in there, the more melatonin you will produce, and that's obviously going to help you with sleep. So just a couple of last things. Remember, you guys are going to get that handout tomorrow, so you'll be able to go over that all again. But these are some things that may help at certain points with your sleep, but you got to check with a doctor first, please, particularly with this first one, melatonin. So this one I hear about a lot. And I'll be honest, I've even used it myself. It can be very helpful. You want to check dosages and things like that. You do want to check with a doctor, naturopath, somebody, even just a pharmacist around something like this. But know that it mainly helps with the onset of sleep. It is not meant to, and it's not going to help with you staying asleep. And depending on the dosage, taking something like this too late in the night or in the middle of the night to try to get back to sleep might not be a good idea, because sometimes you really need like at least 8 hours to have this in your system to be able to wake up and kind of function properly. So something you want to look into. It's typically helpful for those who say are shift workers, or jet lagged, trying to get a circadian rhythm going again. So trying to get that consistent bedtime and sleep schedule going. So it's not something that should be used for long periods of time, because your body will sort of, it will take note. Oh, we're getting melatonin from elsewhere. I don't have to make as much. I mean, you would be able to balance that out again, of course, but it would take some time and some work. So if you feel the need to use melatonin, I would talk to your doctor about that. Weighted blankets have been coming around. They've been in the news. They're all over the place lately. Typically speaking, for the average person that doesn't have underlying health issues, which is why you'd want to check with your doctor around using these, but you're typically going with a weight of around 10% of your body weight. Typically for adults, the weighted blankets are going from like 12 pounds to about 20 pounds, 15 kind of being average. But this can be helpful, because just having that weight, it's almost like giving yourself a hug. And this is another thing that I talk to parents about for those older kids getting to sleep and feeling comfortable around sleep when they're alone, is giving themselves a big hug. That releases oxytocin. So these weighted blankets, that's part of it. It actually helps a lot with mental health issues like anxiety and depression, because of that particular factor. So I'm sure there's others too, but I just know that one in particular. Okay, so I just wanted to mention those ones in particular. And to end off, I would like to announce a 7-day sleep challenge. So when I send out this information to you guys tomorrow, I'm going to send another checklist of sorts or something which you can feel free to use. But I want us to all dedicate a 7-day stretch. And you know what? On day 8, you do whatever you want. Keep going. I'd love for you to keep going. But if you can really just commit to 7 days of being mindful and focusing on your sleep, I think you might notice a difference. So I'm going to do this too. And so I'm going to put the details in it all in the email tomorrow. And if you want to join, there is a prize at stake. So tomorrow's Thursday. If I hope that we can start it, let's say we'll start, well, start whenever you want, but I'm going to do a draw for anyone who participates. And again, I'll put the details in the email tomorrow, for a $50 Amazon gift card, or you can translate it to $50 in birth baby sleep bucks. But, you know, a lot of you probably already have some kids that are sleeping pretty well, so you might want to use the Amazon card instead. Anyway, I'll send details for that tomorrow. I'll send you the handout. I'll send you this recording. And I hope you guys all kind of got something from this. I think I can stop sharing my screen now. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go off mute and throw them in the chat, or yeah, thanks a lot for joining. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Bye guys. Take care. I'll be in touch tomorrow.